Good morning, stampers and crafters. Welcome to Tina's Crafty Ink Spot. I hope we are transmitting and everything is going well. Let me see. Let's see if some people are going to pop on here so I can tell what we've got. Today's card, if we're transmitting, if somebody could pop on and just say hello, that would be great. Today's card, actual two cards, are some sponged, what they call stampscaping. And stampscaping, I enjoy it because it's never going to be the same twice. You know what I mean? So these two cards, believe it or not, are a lot simpler than they look. There's only maybe 2 or 3 inks that are used on them. And, it just, you're gonna love it. If you like any type of sponging or anything like that, this is something you want to do. Let me make sure we're working here. I'm trying to find my live feed. I apologize, I'm still really new at doing Facebook Lives, so bear with me. But so we're going to start with this one. And it's kind of, I wanted this kind of deep red kind of sunset lake thing happening there. So that's kind of what we're going to go with there. So let me, okay, I've got Wendy. Hi, Wendy. All right. My super fan is here. All right, Wendy, do we have sound and everything? We ready to rock this? All right. So what we want to do, I want to start with this one. And believe it or not, you just start with a plain piece of white paper. Hi, Cindy. Oh, thank you for joining me. Hope it goes as well as I hope. But like I said, all Stampscapes, no matter how you do them, it's going to be different. And this one, I wanted to keep it simple. And my husband won't even let me give this one away. And I didn't put a greeting on it because I wanted to kind of just keep you could do any type of thing with this. So we're just going to roll with it. And what we're going to start with is I have a piece of Whisper White, and it's 4 by 5 1/4. And we're going to, I would suggest when you're doing Stampscapes, use a stamp positioning tool. The reason being, when you have a lot of ink on something, a lot of times you have to like re-stamp it and get your images nice and dark. Good morning, Sandy. Good morning, Avanel. Welcome to my live. We're just getting new at this, so please be patient with my stumbles. Anyway, let's just do this because it's so much fun. And the stamp set that we're using today is called Mountain Air. And on this stamp set, they call it there's a name they call it, where we used to do it where you flip your stamp over and you have a solid image. You can do that with any of your photopolymers. Hello from Indiana. Hi, Adrian. Now, Stampin' Up! Is now kind of put it on here to show you are capable of doing that. And it works really well for doing shadows and such like that. So to start off, I'm actually going to do my stamping first on this one, okay? Now, a lot of times you'll do your sponging and then you'll do your stamping. But on this one, since it's going to be all dark images that we're going to highlight, we're going to do our stamping first. So let's grab our background trees. Let me wipe this off a little bit. A lot of times I like to just moisten it and wipe it off a little bit. It just makes it stick easier. So I'm just using a baby wipe. Hi from Lafayette. Nice. All right, so now I want my small trees to be farther in the background, so it's going to be farther up on the page. And I'm just going to line it up on here. Let's come down just a little bit. And I'm just going to use regular Memento Black. I pretty much use Memento on almost everything because it works with Stampin' Blends or, you know, anything like that. So it's kind of my go-to ink. That and StazOn. So let's just stamp this in black. My stamp moved there. Guess I bet I should look at my screen and make sure I'm even in screen here for you guys, huh? Sorry. Okay, so let's just ink this up really well. And on this particular one, I didn't want my shadow coming down, you know, farther into the scene. If you look at this stamp, it comes down quite a ways with the shadowing. So all I'm going to do is I've inked up my stamp, and I'm going to take my wipe and just wipe off some of the bottom of that. I don't need all that. So I'm just going to wipe it off. And then stamp our image. You know, when you let your stamp set on the paper a little bit, it gives it a chance to absorb into your paper. So that's kind of why I just leave it there a second. Let's see if we need to do that a second time. Oh, yep, I messed it up. Hopefully that didn't move too bad. Might have moved a hair. Let me see if I can restamp that. Just that one area. So you get to see the flaws too in a live. I guess in a live you don't get to redo stuff. Oh, thank you for sharing, Linda. I appreciate it. Yeah, I posted these cards online the other day, and I've just got bombarded with email requests to do a tutorial, so I'm hoping this turns out. So we have a little bit of black there, but that's going to be okay because we're going to be doing some shadowing. So now I'm going to go ahead, I think I'm going to go ahead and do these front ones before I start sponging. Let's go ahead and do all of our stamping all at once. And to create these little islands, you can tell I'm nervous. I'm kind of fumbling at this. I apologize. Okay, so to create these little islands, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our mountain stamp, the little mountains here, and we'll do the back side of them so that we have more of a solid image. So let's put an island. Let's put one about right here. And I'm using the solid side of the stamp. So we're going to put a little island about right there. And again in black. So there's our first little island. And now I want to do another island on the other side. And since I'm only using a portion of the stamp, I'm going to turn this around. And it's okay if it's not super solid, because we're going to be doing some other stamping on our little island. And then we're going to do some highlights on it to make it look like rocks. So let's put this island about, let's put it about right there. Again, using the solid side of the stamp. Oh, hi, Tammy. How is it over there in Washougal? You guys getting some decent weather over there? They're talking about getting snow here this weekend. I pray not. Okay, so now we've got our two islands. And it's okay if they're not solid. Remember, we're going to be doing some more stamping on those. So now, let's bring in our pine trees. And I want to put a couple pine trees on each rock. So let's put a set of them. We're going to come down just a little bit on our rock so that our trees are actually kind of in the middle of the island there. And we're using the correct side of the stamp on this one, not the solid side. Oh, you didn't miss anything, Tammy. I'm just babbling. Okay, so let's stamp our trees. I'm going to do that one more time so we get a nice solid image. Because we're going to be highlighting these trees so that they're in the foreground and the sun shining on them. Yeah, I'm so done with winter too, Tammy. Okay, so now let's clean these off and put some more trees on the other side. Let's move them over a little bit. This is a really fun set for doing this with. Yeah, they're calling for snow here. I hope not. I know, yeah, I'm done with winter. And I have to drive over the mountain pass tomorrow to go to a doctor appointment in Seattle, and you just never know what kind of weather you're going to get up there in the mountains. There, we've got our trees. And now we're just going to start our sponging, and we'll add the accents later on. So I'm going to move this out of the way. So when you start sponging, start with your lightest color and work to your darkest. And that way you have accents. So this one we're using 3 colors. We're using Cajun Craze, Pumpkin Pie, and Black, believe it or not. So let's start with our Pumpkin Pie. And I'm just using sponge daubers. The reason I use sponge daubers on this particular one is because I wanted to be able to put streaks in the sky. I want it to look kind of like a streaked sky. So let's start, ink up our dauber really well. Which is the solid side? The solid side is the back side of your stamp. It's the, you can do it with any photopolymer, Avenel. You can use them as accents. So the back side of the stamp is what they're talking about here. So here's your front side, your stamped trees, and then if you flip the stamp over to where your image side is against your stamparatus, then you're going to get a solid image. Okay, so I'm going to start in the corners, and always start off your paper, and then I've got that pretty inked up. My pumpkin pie must really be wet, but that's okay. We're just going to hit our corners here. And then as the ink comes off, it'll lighten up. And we're going to go down the side with the darker, come across the top. And now we want our sun, or our sunset, to shadow down through the middle of our lake. Okay? So that will be the area we don't sponge as much. So let's do our edges here. Get those all, because our dauber's still nice and wet. In the center of your cards are always going to be kind of your focal when you're sponging like this. So just start on the outside. and then work in. And now for water, since we're doing water, we're kind of just going to streak our dauber. And blend it out. And it's okay, go right over your stamping on this one. It doesn't hurt it. I'm going to go right around where our sun's going to be. And with really light sponging in those areas, it kind of gives you that third color or the fourth color of the light that looks like it's light here. So let's blend that out a little bit. And real light right there in the middle. Come to our edges. So when I'm doing the water, I'm kind of going back and forth. Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Oh my goodness. Hi, Kelly. I'm going to say I've not been there before. Now it's okay to go right over your trees, right over your island. And as you get to the center, we're going lighter. Just going to give it that sun look. And it's okay to be a little darker right underneath your islands there because they've got the shadow of the sun. Just kind of go right along the edge there. And it'll get, that way it gets behind your trees. West Virginia. Hi, Deborah. Thank you for joining me. Okay, so now we've got our lightest coat. And we're going really light in the center there, and it's going to make it look really bright when you're done. Let's add a little bit more of the pumpkin pie here. And now let's bring in some Cajun craze. I'm wondering if this one is retiring. If you don't have Cajun craze, you could probably also use the terracotta tile. I bet would work. It's real close to the Cajun craze. Okay, so now I wanted these kind of streaks in my sky. So I'm going to ink up my dauber, and I'm just going to do some streaks. And so you can see now why I say that every Stampscape you do is going to be different. So to get some of these streaks, I'm kind of using the edge of my 81 to 35. Wow, that's cold season, Wendy, isn't it? That's how you get a cold. I know, I like Cajun craze too, Char. It is one of my... I don't know, it's just such a warm, inviting color. So we're still staying out of our sunlight area. And we're blending into our pumpkin there. And let's bring some of the dark over here on the edge. Go under your island a little bit. And you can use like the edge of your dauber to be a little more precise, if I guess would be the word. I'm going to go under our island a little bit. Gives it a shadow. And now we're going to also take the edge of it, and we're going to go 28 degrees in Ohio. Oh my gosh, Julie. Okay, so take the edge of your dauber and go right along that that little area of your trees to bring in some of the dark there. Add a couple streaks of your dark, trying to keep your white there, but you're just adding some accent in there. And by doing it sideways like that, it gives it that effect of water. You can do that when you sponge with your blues too. Along our trees there. I want a couple more little dark streaks here. See if I can create them again. I've seen some beautiful sunset pictures and moonscape pictures lately of this, what do they call that moon we just had? They got a name for it. The harvest, is it the harvest moon that we just had last night? I think it was last night. Last couple nights, I guess it's called I think it's called a harvest moon, I don't know, but there's been some people posting photos on Facebook and stuff. They're just stunning. And it just makes me want to make a stampscape of it, so. Okay, we're still just doing a few streaks in there. And you can go right over your island. It's going to be fine. And it gets the dark behind your trees when you do that, because we're going to highlight these trees so that they look more in the foreground. And just keep working it until you get the effect you want. I'm going to do just a little bit more here, and then I think we're going to move into our black for our shades, for our shadows. And see how leaving just a few streaks there kind of gives it that shimmer of light on the water. And since you're just streaking like that, it gives it the accent. Okay, so now pretty much got that. I'm going to bring in the black dauber and the black ink. Oh, they called it the worm moon? Oh, harvest moon's in autumn. Oh, thanks, Deborah. Didn't know that. You would think. I'm in farm country now. I would know that. The farmers talk about that kind of stuff and the luck of their crops and things. So now I'm going to take my black dauber. I'm going to ink up the edge of it. Okay, just kind of the edge. And I want to give my trees some streaks. So all I'm going to do is lightly streak right below these trees. So it's going to look like a reflection. See that? It's going to look like a reflection of the trees on the water. So even those little faux black I've got there, it's not going to matter. It just covers it right up. And by using the edge of your dauber, you can create the thinner lines. Okay, I'm still going to use the edge of my dauber and maybe highlight just a little bit along that bottom edge there. You can also do it with a marker. The more sponging you do, the more you'll figure out different. Okay, so now we also want to add some shadow to our islands where the trees are. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to come up into the island. We can even sponge that island a little to cover the red that's in it. And now let's swipe down for our trees. Deborah, I just took up, do I paint? Believe it or not, I did when I was young, but I've just now taken up the hobby of doing watercoloring, and I really enjoy it because I like anything that's, everybody's perspective of art is different, and things like watercolor or doing sponging or stampscapes or anything like that is all relative to the person doing it. So that means, to me, that means anything goes. And that's how I create when I stamp. Just do what you feel at the moment. If you're creating a card, and don't worry if there's going to be people that don't like this kind of stuff, or don't like simple stamping, or love stamp. Everybody's different. So you just kind of pick what you like and make sure you enjoy doing it. This to me is very relaxing. Sponging is very relaxing to me. And I found watercoloring is too, but I'm such a perfectionist to learn something. I think I've been in YouTube to death trying to find watercoloring stuff. So I'm going to add just a little bit more shadow on this island. Okay, so now we're going to highlight our trees. And to do that, what I did is I took, but what you can also do, well, let's do the highlight on the trees, and then I'm going to show you, I don't know if you can see it on here, but created kind of a rock look on the island, and then I added some shrubs and stuff, and I used a white gel marker for that. Gel markers, I have tried them all, and I'm hit and miss. This one here I got, I think it was a gift, and it's called Pen Touch, and it's a white pen, so we'll try that. And it's one you have to shake. You can use a regular white gel pen. Oh, you know what we forgot to do before I do this? I apologize. As I'm looking at it, I wanted to add some black streaks in my sky. So we're going to do it the same way we did with the Cajun Craze. Just going to use the edge of the dauber and just add a couple of black streaks. I don't know why I like the black streaks in it, I just kind of do. Okay. You could putter, putter, putter on these forever. So I'll stop. All right, so now I want my trees to look like they're in the foreground. So all I'm going to do is take my white pen, if I can get it started here, and I'm just going to highlight some areas of my trees here. And it looks really bold and white, but we're going to tone it down a little bit as soon as it dries. But we want these pine trees right here to look like they're in the front. So I'm kind of just adding a couple little doesn't have to be perfect, it's just, highlights. Take it all the way down, and let's do each one of the trees. I'm not doing straight lines, I'm actually kind of just dotting it across. Okay, now we want to add, let's add a couple of shrubs in here. Maybe a little grass right at the bottom. Okay, and we'll let that dry, and then we'll tone it down a little bit with just a little bit of sponging. We're just adding some grass so it looks like it's sitting on an island with some shrubs. Let's highlight this tree too. Yeah, Char, it's a white gel pen I found. It's a quick dry opaque white pen. There's so many out there. You kind of just gotta try them all. You can get white gel pens also at the craft store. This is just one, I believe it was a gift, and it's more of a paint white pen, so it seems to work pretty well. It doesn't really, it just says it's a Sakura, Sakura pen touch white. And so far it seems to be a really cool pen because it's kind of more of a paint. And it's nice and opaque because a lot of times you get gel pens and they're just drive you crazy. So we've got our trees highlighted here. And as it dries, it becomes more like most gel pens, subtle. So just as it dries. And let's add some shrubs on this island. Little grass, maybe. A couple. Okay, and then when that's dry, see this side's dry here, I'm going to use just my pumpkin pie dauber and just lightly go over that white, just to kind of tone it down a little bit. And since this is, already inked up, let's make sure that's dry. Let's just dab it over our white a little bit. Now I'm going to take a black Stampin' Write marker, and some of these areas that are light on your island, just touch them up with this, and when you add just kind of little, it's actually going to add a dark highlight to your already black that kind of gives it a rugged rock look. I'll put it up to the camera here in just a second. See if you can see it. It's one of those tiny touches that, just an extra. See how it kind of gives it that rugged rock kind of look there? There you go. All right, Now, I want to go right along the base of my trees a little bit, just to make it a little stronger. You can do it a little bit jagged with some shadows. It's just a little extra touch there. Now we're going to take our white gel pen and we're going to create... Oh, you found them on Amazon, friend? Oh, different sizes. I don't know what size this one is. Oh, this is a 0.7, and it's got a nice fine tip. So now let's add some water streaks. So you're going to take your marker and just randomly... You mess it up, you can obviously just wipe it right off like that. So these are just the reflection, so make sure you kind of get a few, even in that white area where you're not thinking that it's showing. In person, it does show. If it goobers on you, just wipe it off. That's the only thing I don't like about this pen, is it occasionally goobers on me, I guess. So now we have our water shadows. And there you go. I forgot to sponge this tree. That's Cajun. So we're going to bring our pumpkin pie in and just tone down the highlights on the tree and the grass a little bit. Do any extra blending you need. You really don't need to, though. And that's it. That is pretty much your Stampscape. So you could play with that all day long. I did mount it on a piece of basic black, just to, oh, thank you, Shar, for sharing. Just because, to me, the black kind of draws out your black shadows and frames in your piece. So we're just going to put that straight onto our black. And then I have just a piece of, thank you, Karen, that is very sweet of you. Now I'm just going to put it on a piece of Cajun Craze. I'm not going to go crazy popping it up or anything, because a lot of times when you do something like this, you want the attention just to go to the image, not, you know, to pops-ups and greetings and, you know, ribbon or anything like that. So this could be used for absolutely anything. Try to get this on here square. I have a really thin line there. And there you go. So even, you know, they're still pretty much different. So any Stampscape, this one I apparently did a little bit more highlights, but any Stampscape you do is going to turn out a little bit different each time. So now we've got that one done. Let's do a night scene. Now this night scene, this one we needed to do a couple of things before we stamped. And what I did, let's grab some stuff here. Again, we're starting with just Whisper White. And I believe this one is, this should be 4 by 5 1/4. Because I didn't put a mat on this one. So to create my moon, I took a 2-inch circle punch, a sticky note, and when you punch it, try to get some of the sticky. My punch doesn't like to cut out paper very well. So let me trim this a little bit. There we go. So now we want to figure out where we want our moon and where we want our mountains. Let's put our moon about right in the center of our, because that's kind of our focal image is the moon. I'm just going to put that right in the middle there. And let's start sponging. Okay, so let's grab some sponges. So for this one, I think we're going to use, I almost always use Night of Navy. That'll be my, especially for night skies. So I've got Night of Navy. I got some nice bright Pacific Point and some balmy blue for our lighter accents. So let's see if I can find those down. There's Pacific Point. I label my my daubers. That's turquoise. Sorry, I should have pulled these out ahead of time. I apologize. There's my Night of Navy. And we need our balmy blue. There it is. There we go. We got it. So for this one, you want to start with your lightest. So let's bring in some balmy blue. Oh, you label your daubers too, Cindy? I have like 2 cases of daubers, and I have sponges, and I recently was gifted the latest craze is those like makeup brushes. So I haven't even tried those yet. I mean, I seem to have more control with a dauber. So let's go around our moon first with the balmy blue, real light. And then we'll start up here in our corner. And we're probably going to come down to about just above where we think our mountains are going to go, because I kind of want this light streak above my mountains. Okay, so it looks like the moon is lit up behind them. Oh, your daubers are falling. You know, some of mine do too. If you look at this one, Linda, it's a little worse for wear. At least they're cheap to replace. I also like using those, oh, the case for the daubers, Adrian. To be honest, I'm not positive. I've had it for so long. I would probably guess I found it on Amazon. And it probably came with daubers. But sometimes when you buy them bulk like that, they're really just cheap daubers. They like, you know, fall apart and that kind of thing. But so we're just going to add some light here, and I know I want it light about maybe 1/3 of the way down from your moon here. Blend in where I have a little streaks there. And now I know I want it light. The mountains are going to be going here. So I want another light streak below the mountains. Oh, you got yours on Amazon, Cheryl? Yeah, Amazon's kind of a go-to for everything, it seems. But as far as quality daubers, I do buy those through Stampin' Up because they last and they don't disintegrate. I think the generic ones that came with that case were really bad. So I just bought several packs of daubers from Stampin' Up. So I'm kind of creating my line where I know, because we're going to have light right in the middle and then the mountains right in the middle of that. So when you start with your lighter colors, it kind of lays it out for you. Yeah, this one's falling apart as we use it. I do a lot of blues, so my blue daubers kind of fall apart fast. Okay, so we've got our basic down of our light area. It kind of laid it out for us. I'm going to leave that open because you can always go back to the lighters and blend out. Yeah, Fran, the Stampin' Up! Ones do last longer. You found, and Jeannie found daubers with caps or lids. Caps or lids. You mean like a lid or a cap that goes over the sponge part? That'd be interesting. Okay, now we're going to the Pacific Point, and we'll start up at the top. Start on your corners off the edge. You're only going to bring it down a little ways. Blend it into your balmy blue. We're still only going about a third of the way down on our moon. And since we're creating a mirrored image, we'll do the same thing on the bottom. Because basically you're mirroring the water. And still keeping our light streak right, kind of right down the middle of our image. Just kind of blending it up into our light balmy blue. Oops. I hit my moon a little there. I probably streaked under it, which is okay. So I'll show you how to create the accents on the moon. Okay, I'm just going to smooth out some of the areas here. Just kind of blends it. Okay, now let's bring in our Night of Navy, which is, I just love doing this part because it kind of just pulls the whole thing together. Do you use makeup brushes for blending? Cheryl, I just got a set of makeup brushes, or I assume that's what they are. It was a gift from a family member, and I haven't even tried them yet. I should. I should do a comparison, you know, like do sponge daubing on something and then use my those brushes and see how they work. So now we're making sure the top of our sky is our night sky. So we're just going over the very top of that. Get a nice dark coat on there. Blend it into your Pacific Point a little bit. And Night and Navy is just perfect for this. Just perfect. Okay, now we're doing our mirrored image, so we'll go to the bottom of the card. Keeping it still light there because our mountain's gonna cover a lot of that. So it looks weird now, but trust me, it'll look pretty cool. I've got some images that I printed. The team of stampers that I'm in, some of these ladies have some beautiful properties, and they take pictures, and I would love to mimic some of the pictures of them. One of them is a lady by the name of Mary, and she's got such a beautiful property, and she takes these amazing photos. I've actually even contacted her once, and I've done where you stamp on photos. You just take a photo and you stamp an image on it, and wow, you got a card. Oh, the brushes give a softer look. Oh, really? I guess I better try them. Like I said, I just got them, and I think there's only 6, maybe 5 or 6 that came in the pack in the different sizes. Okay, so now we've got that. And what I normally do is I go back to my balmy blue and kind of just blend out those any rough edges you have. Just kind of go up into that line and just kind of blend it out a little bit. It gets rid of any kind of dauber marks or anything like that. So I'm just kind of going over the line with it, and it's my lightest color, the balmy blue. See how it smooths it out? It's kind of like using, alcohol blenders. Go back with your lighter color, and it gets rid of any kind of streaking or anything. So there we go. Now, okay, I need just a touch more of Night and Navy. This is the very top sky here, and I want my stars that we're going to create to show up really well. So I'm trying to add a nice dark coat right at the very top of that. And there we go. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take off our mask. You have a moon. And now I'm just going to take my balmy blue and kind of just dab using the corner, using the edge. Just dab a couple of areas on your moon. And it's going to kind of look like moon craters. Kind of that simple. Okay, so now let's get our stamping in. So now for the mountains of this one, because I want kind of purple mountains. Oops. These are my brand new magnets, and I'm surprised I haven't broke them yet. I always snap them together, and they end up breaking. Lesson learned. Alright, so we're going to grab our mountains. And let's put them, we want a little bit of the moon to be in the water. So let's line up our mountains here. And that looks about right. And that way we're going to have a little bit of shadow of the moon onto the water. Okay, that moved. There we go. Now this, I'm going to stamp these in the Pacific Point, because I want them to be more of a kind of shadowed blue mountains. Oh, you were able to find those brushes at dollar store, Punky? Huh. I'll have to go look. I've seen them online, you know, the craft people selling them, and they're pretty spendy. Okay, let's put our Blue Mountains in. Oh, so you think you would invest in a different set than Dollar Tree, Punky, of those brushes? Oops. I didn't push down on my mountain. Aha, there's our Blue Mountains. Clean that off. And now let's add some trees on our mountains. So I'm going to do my trees in black right at the base of where our mountains are there. Maybe overlapping a little bit into the moon there. Let's come down a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to try to stamp this without getting ink on the stems, just because I don't really need them. So let's do our trees in black. And I'm not really doing the trunks of the trees. Oh, thank you, Karen. That's very sweet. And there's a lot of ink on here, so let's do it twice to make sure we get a nice dark image. Okay, there's one set of trees. And I think there's a smaller set of trees in this stamp set. Let me see. Let's do just one tree over here. And I want it a little bit smaller, so I'm not going to ink the whole tree. So you can kind of adapt them to what you need. So I'm only going to leave about I'm going to do about 2/3 of the tree. Ink up about 2/3 of the tree. Yep, that's about what we want. Stamp it a second time, get a nice dark image. Oh, thank you, Diana. It is a really cool stamp set. I really enjoy it. But I like making stampscapes, so anything like that I can use for a stampscape. Alright, so we're going to put that aside. And now I'm going to bring in, let's see if this marker is dark enough. I'm going to bring in a balmy blue marker. See if that's, yep, that's going to be dark enough. Let's color in those mountain areas, and it'll make your mountain look just like a shadow. We don't need it really bright, so I'm just kind of coloring it in. And since it's a lighter blue, it'll kind of just look like the moonlight shining off of it. Get behind your trees. And now let me grab a Pacific Point, or a Night of Navy marker. These are just regular Stampin' markers I'm using to color this in. Oh, thank you, Diana. That's very sweet of you. Need all the followers I can get. All right. So, what I want to do is I want to do a water line right along the edge of here. Now, you can use a ruler or something if you want. And all you need to do, I guess I want to do a little bit more stamping, but I probably can do it freehand because all we need is the shadow of the trees. So I'm going to move this out of the way. So let's take our ruler and go right along the base of our mountains here. We're just creating the shoreline. Okay. Now this one, I didn't get as much moon in the water as I would have liked to have, but that's okay. You get the gist. You could have just moved your mountains up a little bit. So like I said, every one of these you do is going to be different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a block and I'm going to put one of the trees on it. And I'm going to take black and I'm going to ink it up, stamp it off really well, okay? And then go, you know what, let's do it this way so you don't. So let's ink it up really well, put a little piece of paper there. And you can ink up like half of it, stamp it off, and then just stamp it right below that tree. And there's your shadow, okay? So ink it up halfway again, stamp it off. You can lay this here just in case, and stamp your shadow. Hi Pamela, welcome. And now we need just that tiny little tree there, so I'm going to ink up just a little bit of the pine tree, stamp it off, and then, so now you have your tree shadows, or reflections, I guess. That's how you do reflection stamping. Okay, so now what did we need to do next? Let's add some stars. I'm going to show you this really neat way to add some stars. Let me close these up because inevitably I will get ink everywhere. I've already got ink all over me. That's just kind of my thing. So what I want to do is I have gouache white paint is what this is. I use this for watercoloring and stuff like that. This is a huge bottle. You don't need this much. You can also do this with if you have a white ink refill, or you could even do it with a gel pen. But this way you get this kind of scattered star look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little stamping block. I'm going to put a little of this white paint on it. I have an old toothbrush, but what I do want to do is mask off the area of this that I don't want any white on. So let me find a piece of scrap paper. So I only want my stars up in the sky there. So I'm just going to lay a piece of paper there. Take and put a little bit of this white paint. You can also use any stiff bristle brush. It'll work. And you could do this the way I do it because I don't mind getting ink on me, or you can use like a pen, or your you could use your bone folder or anything you want to use. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my finger and I'm going to flick the white paint onto there. See there? I'm going to add a couple more. So there's probably a neater way to do this, a cleaner way, but you know what? It's only ink, it wipes off. There we go. So now, since this is a mirrored image of this, we need a little bit of the stars, oops, on the bottom. So I'm just going to mask or cover that up. Put some white ink on there and flick our stars. Okay, now let me wipe myself off here. Nope, see, it wipes right off your blocks. I use my blocks for palettes for painting and all kinds of stuff. So now we've got our stars, and we're going to bring in our white gel pen again. And if we want, we can add some larger accented stars into our sky here. So let's just put a few dots of those in there that are a little bit bigger. No rhyme or reason how you do stars and the sizes, and let's add a couple more accents right here. Now we need our water reflection, so we're going to do the same. Hi from Michigan, Sandy, welcome. Okay, so now we're going to add our water streaks the same way. Let me get my pen going here. And there you go. You have your moon card. But let's step it up a little bit more. While we have our white pen out, let's add some small bushes right here on the bottom of our island by our trees. So we're going to add a little bit of white here. Let's kind of do some scribbles there. No rhyme or reason how you do this. And all it's going to look like is bushes because we're going to highlight this with another color. And go along our island here a little bit. Just a couple of little grass knolls. And now let's bring in, to highlight those, I'm going to bring in a green. How about we try, we'll do a two-color. We'll do a little bit of garden green. And let's just highlight our grass a little with our garden green. That's just going to add some lighter accents that the moon is shining on. You don't have to be exact, just get some color on it. And now take the darker green and add a little more accent. And there you go, you have your moonscape. And on the original, I took the well-written dies and I cut out a I did a thanks, And then I did a Night of Navy background on it and just cut it out and popped it up with dimensionals. You don't want a lot of big greetings on Stampscapes. I mean, you can, but you put a lot of work into these. So, don't cover them up. Show them off. And there you go. That is 2 Stampscape cards today. That was a pretty long one, and I hope you enjoyed it. So we have our Sunset Lake, and we have our Moonlit Lake. And I really hope you enjoyed today's class. I really appreciate you joining me, and I hope you have a very, very happy Stampin' Day. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.